Neymar Jr. and Gareth Bale, two of the greatest players to ever walk on a football pitch. But did they flop? Did they fail to reach the heights people expected of them? Did they waste their potential? This is a conversation and debate I had with one of my friends earlier today after seeing a tweet about it, and honestly, I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. For me, these two are two of the best players of a generation and people I'm very happy I got to grow up watching. I mean, there's potential for bias here, as I would say, outside of Brighton, who is my team. Neymar is my favourite player of all time, so maybe I'm seeing this through tinted glasses, but I don't think it's fair to say either of them failed to reach their potential. I think they were victims of something way bigger. An era dominated by Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. An era where great wasn't good enough. You literally had to be godlike. But, as I was saying, I was talking to my friend and he said they underachieved. Neymar may as well have retired at 28. Had 2 or 3 good seasons or however long he was at Barca. I don't see how you can dispute that he is a wasted talent. Lewandowski is closer to Messi and Ronaldo than Neymar and Bale. So is Modric. I sat there for a second and I thought, is that really how people remember them? Are we seriously calling Neymar and Bale disappointments now? So that's what we're breaking down in this video. This idea that they wasted their potential and whether that's actually fair, because I don't agree, not even close. I get the initial hype. People expected Neymar to be the next big thing. I mean, he was never been so much noise about a player whilst he was playing in Brazil for Santos. He was dubbed the next Pele as a teenager, and you're lighting up the Brazilian league, you're dancing past defenders, but before you'd even left Santos, the world is expecting you to be a Ballon d'Or winner. And Bale, he was a kid at Southampton who turned into a wonder kid at Spurs, then bought by Real Madrid for a world record fee. And not just expected to succeed, and they are both expected to be some of the faces of the biggest clubs in the world alongside Messi and Ronaldo, respectively. You just can't be just good. You have to be incredible. That's the level of pressure they were under from the beginning. And let's not pretend like they flopped by any means. They both set the world alight. They just did so whilst 2 literal freaks of nature stole the spotlight. And it's criminally unfair to suggest that neither Neymar or Bale are successful just because they couldn't quite match 2 of the most talented footballers, if not the 2 most talented footballers to ever grace the earth. And the media, they were relentless as ever. Every dive Neymar took, every party he went to, every injury, it all became headline news. And for Bale, it was probably even more brutal in Madrid. They called him cold, selfish, uninterested. They criticised him for not speaking Spanish, for playing golf, for not being Galactico enough. It was ridiculous, but the narratives stick. And once the media gets an idea in their head, it spreads like wildfire. And that's what happened to both of them. The idea that they never really fulfilled their promise. As crazy as that is to say. Let's look at Neymar. After his rise at Santos, he joined Barcelona and was very famously part of one of the greatest attacking trios in history, MSN. Messi, Suarez, Neymar. He won the treble in 2015, he scored in the Champions League final, he dropped 39 goals and 10 assists that season. That's easily Ballon d'Or level output in any other year, but Messi and Ronaldo are putting up numbers from a different planet. Neymar was exceptional, but he wasn't them. And then there was La Remontada, that game against PSG, the 6-1 comeback. That was Neymar's night. That was his moment in Barcelona history. And yet it was still Messi who took the headlines. And I'm still convinced that that game is the whole reason why he did what he did next. And what did he do? He goes to PSG. Yes, partly for the money, and yes, partly to escape Messi's shadow, but also to become the guy, to lead his own team, to try and win the Champions League for a club that has never done it. And if you ask me, that's ambition. That's not running away for the money. That's betting on yourself as much as it was financially beneficial to do so. Although it's that being said, it's not like he's not getting paid at Barcelona. But speaking of money, there was a record-breaking transfer involved. 222 million euros, the most expensive player of all time. And that price tag pretty fairly doesn't come without expectation. He wasn't just expected to perform, he was expected to win the Ballon d'Or, to deliver PSG the Champions League and fill the void after Messi and Ronaldo go. And the second that he didn't, the media were there waiting again, from global icon to overrated diva, basically overnight. The injuries plagued Neymar's career, and who knows what he could have achieved further without them, but when he was fit, he was quite literally unreal. I mean, look at that 2019-2020 Champions League run. Like, he was arguably the best player in the world after the COVID restart. He took PSG to the final basically by himself. Yeah, he came up short, but he carried them there. Everything about Neymar, his dribbling, his playmaking, everything was elite. The only thing that really ever held him back was injuries, and that's not on him, that's just football. And I guess you could say that that is a reason why he has flopped, but how can you flop and still be regarded as one of the best players of all time? Now, Bale's story is a bit different, but just as intense. He wasn't as hyped early on as Neymar, but once he exploded at Spurs, the pressure still dialed up quick. And then comes his move to Real Madrid, then world record fee. The expectations, again, obviously very high. And to his credit, he delivered, not just once, but over and over. But the media never loved him the way that they loved some others. And why was that? Well, probably because he didn't do his interviews in Spanish, because he was sort of just quiet and he didn't really play the PR game. So when he started picking up injuries, when he didn't celebrate as much, or when he, I don't know, skipped team dinners, the headlines, they wrote himself. Bale doesn't care. Bale only wants to play golf. Bale's time at Real Madrid is a failure. I mean, the guy got booed by his own fans. It's wild. This guy scored one of the greatest Champions League final goals ever and was booed by his fans. It's pretty crazy the way that media has so much power to shape how we remember a player. It's not just about what they do on the pitch, it's about how they're framed. With Neymar, the story became he left Messi for money, and with Bale, it was always that he cared more about golf. And those narratives, they stick because they're emotional, they're clickable, and they're simple. But what gets left out? The goals, the trophies, the historic moments, the fact that both players at their peak were, without question, top 5 in the world. So why do people keep saying that they wasted their potential? Because in football, we've become so obsessed with the idea that only Messi or Ronaldo level domination counts as success. If you're not scoring 50 plus goals in a season, if you're not winning the Ballon d'Or, if you're not carrying your team through the Champions League to win it every year, then suddenly you're a what if. And that's just unfair. They were just unlucky that they happened to exist in the most dominant individual era in football history. And there's not a doubt in my mind, if you took almost any of their seasons and put them in this current era, then they win a Ballon d'Or by a landslide. And honestly, it really kills me knowing that there's a very, very good chance that by the time that he retires, Vinicius Jr. will have more Ballon d'Ors than Neymar. And that's nothing on Vinicius, but the two are genuinely not comparable. But people will say at the end of the career, when all is said and done, that Vinicius is better solely because he has that golden trophy, and Neymar and Bale don't, despite the fact we all know what we saw. But because they played in the same decade as Messi and Ronaldo, everything they did was compared to perfection. Nothing they could really do could dethrone those two greats. But does that mean they didn't live up to their potential? If so, does that mean that their potential was to be better than possibly the two greatest players ever? Because I don't really think it was. That's how warped the expectations are. These players weren't being measured by greatness. They were being measured against the greatest, the two greatest players of all time. They're being compared to Lionel Messi. So yeah, I somewhat get how you could say they didn't live up to their potential because they didn't win the Ballon d'Or. And I guess the lack of major individual honours is what helps that argument. But that's why you need to look deeper, because the context is everything. Like Messi and Ronaldo were obviously going to be the ones that take the headlines. So you've got to kind of look at the actual stats, the other trophies, the moments. They tell a completely different story. A story of two careers that were absolutely incredible. Neymar, he was Brazil's crown jewel. He was just everything. He was that guy. He still has a Champions League, 2 La Liga titles, 5 Ligue 1 titles, dozens of domestic cups, a Copa Libertadores with Santos, Olympic gold, and he is Brazil's all-time record goal scorer. That's more than Pele. And really, I struggle to see how that can constitute a failed career. But I guess because he went to Saudi before he was 40 and got injured a lot means that none of that means anything. And then there's Bale. This is a guy who scored 2 of the greatest goals in Champions League history. Won 5 Champions Leagues, 3 La Liga titles, and managed to actually give hope to his nation of Wales. And that's not failure, that's not underachieving, that's greatness. The problem is we've been conditioned to think that anything short of Messi and Ronaldo is a letdown. That if you're not being able to take the Ballon d'Or off them every year, you're not elite. But that's just nonsense. Neymar and Bale were just simply unlucky to exist in a time where the top of the mountain was already taken. They didn't fail, they just weren't able to be the face of the era. And I think the main one for Bale and his image is genuinely most affected by a flag. Wales, Golf, Madrid, in that order. And realistically, it probably was not a great idea in the grand scheme of things, but it became like his entire brand overnight, and it's something that definitely stuck. From that point on, people acted like Bale had retired, like he was just there collecting his checks and playing 18 holes every morning. And he probably was playing 18 holes every morning, but it was very clear that Madrid fans did not take this very well. I mean, this is one of their greatest ever club legends, and they booed him out the club. That's crazy to me.
Like, I've had 80,000 people in the stadium whistling me because I haven't played well. The first time was a bit like, oh, what is this?
Yeah,
it's not nice.
80,000 people
and it
whistling.
doesn't do your confidence that great, that
Really?
good a deal either. But
why would your home fans do that? That's really brutal.
this is the biggest question, and I just don't get it, because you would expect, if you're not having a good time on the pitch, you would expect your fans to get behind you and try and make you do better because it'll make them happy. But it seems to be that they do the opposite. They just whistle you, which consequently makes you feel worse. You lose your confidence, and then you play worse, which is going to make them even more.
But like I said earlier, let's be honest for a second. If Neymar or Bale had come along in any other era, we'd almost definitely be talking about them as Ballon d'Or winners. And then solely if that had happened and they'd had the exact same career on the pitch, just they had won Ballon d'Ors, nobody would be saying that they had underachieved, that they had flopped, and they would have been able to do the exact same stuff on the pitch. And let me put it into perspective. From 2008 to 2021, only one time did Modric in 2018 break Messi and Ronaldo's just hold on the Ballon d'Or. For 13 years, like, third place was the ceiling. You could have a generational level season, win the Champions League, score 30 goals, and still not get near the top prize. And it wasn't just Neymar and Bale, it's happened to so many of the game's greatest players: Ribery, Schneider, Haaland, Lewandowski, Suarez, Van Dijk. That all of them came close, but not quite, because Messi could drop 91 goals in a calendar year, or Ronaldo would just dominate the Champions League. It's just not a fair way of determining whether someone's failed or not. This isn't to say that it's unfair and Messi and Ronaldo weren't deserving. That obviously they were. These two were in a different stratosphere. But it made everyone else look like they were underachieving, even when they just weren't. And I think this debate, it kind of ties into, well, the idea is that they didn't live up to their potential. But what is potential? Is it a fixed number of goals, a minimum count of Ballon d'Ors, a certain level of media approval because you can't really define it. It's more about the impact of what you made people feel, what you brought to the game, and how you changed things. And by that measure, Neymar was one of the greatest players you could ever watch in terms of eye test. He had literally everything you could want in a footballer. He's what made the beautiful game actually beautiful. And Bale made Wales believe. He brought Hollywood moments to the world's biggest club, all whilst winning the biggest trophies there is to win. They, for me, absolutely fulfilled their potential. They were in the debate of the best players in the world. What more was expected of them? So here's where I land. No, Neymar didn't waste his potential, and no, Bale didn't waste his either. For me, they are right up there when you talk about the greatest players in football history. And if you agree and you like this content, then please consider subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot. And if you don't agree and do think Neymar and Bale wasted their careers, then you should also subscribe. But also leave a comment on why you think that. And so, with all that being said, fade to black.